What is Port Authority? In 1959, the Pennsylvania legislature authorized the consolidation of 33 private transit carriers, many of which were in dire financial straits. By combining fare structures and centralizing operations, Port Authority established the first unified transit system in Allegheny County in March 1964. Approximately 2,600 employees operate, maintain, and support bus, light rails, incline, and paratransit services to provide more than 60 million rides a year. They also play an increasingly significant role in economic development efforts and community vitality within Pittsburgh and throughout Allegheny County's communities. As the community relies on Port Authority to make improvements, they continue to seek ways to improve how they serve riders and the community. In this class, we talked about different topics such as public administration, civil society, public service, ethics, branches and levels of government, organizational theory, and leadership in public service. In this class, we learned that to bring these services to their best level, you have to have a good organization and always think about what is best for our society. We also learned about the benefits that our respective sectors bring to our society. Public service is cheaper than private transportation since private transportation includes the expenses of the car, its maintenance, insurance, parking, and fuel. Although you save time, public transportation pollutes the city less than private vehicles. Public transport is the more ecological alternative to move around the city, and also improves urban mobility and will therefore decrease delays and traffic jams.
The general history and objectives of the Port Authority. They were the 26th largest transit agency in the U.S., and in 1859 was the first public transit system. The history of public transit in Allegheny County is a story of vision and imagination, tradition and innovation, tunnels and bridges. But most of all, it's been a constant drive, powered by everything from horses to steam, diesel to electric, to serve a population that's always on the move. Port Authority's official debut as a functioning authority came on March 1st, 1964. It merely set about 33 independent transportation companies, including bus companies. History and actors of Port Authority. Catherine Kellman, CEO, is responsible for the operations of 700 vehicle bus fleet and 80 vehicle light rail systems, which provide service to a total of more than 220,000 riders a day. Inez Colon, Chief Human Resources Officer, is responsible for the strategic development and management of HR core functions, including benefits, compensation, talent acquisition, and developmental, employee and labor union relations.
I'm going to talk about the demographics of the organization and the public that they serve, as well as prominent issues and initiatives within the organization. The fiscal year 2020 decrease in ridership was due to the COVID-19 pandemic shutdowns for the entire system. Through February 2020, ridership system-wide was up about 1% over the fiscal year 2019 for the same period. Bus ridership was relatively stable until February 2020 and had grown 0.53% compared to 2019 levels. During the last 4 months of 2020, combined ridership was 57% less than the same month in 2019. The sharpest drop from 2019 levels was in April 2020, with a 72% decline in ridership. The decrease in bus ridership during COVID shutdowns was mostly attributed to routes that depended heavily on commuter or student ridership. So, disclaimer for the next set of data. These data in percentages were taken from a survey of about 1,941 people, and it was used to generalize the information to improve the Port Authority system. It was used to test for differing statistics. This was the only reliable data and source that I could find about who Port Authority serves, the people that they serve. And so this survey is comparative data that was released in 2015, as it appears that they do ridership surveys every 5 years, and it was collected in 2014. So to start off, what purpose do you think the most people use Port Authority Transit for? So 82.9% ride Port Authority for work purposes, so that's the biggest reason why. Then additionally, 55.4% use it for entertainment purposes, 45.5% use it for personal business, like going to the bank or getting a haircut, 41% use it for social reasons, like visiting friends and family, 40.1% use it to go shopping, 30% use it for medical care and appointments, 25.8% use Port Authority for school and job training, 22.7% use it for other varying reasons like vehicle issues, bad weather, and lastly, 9% use it for religious reasons. And then to pay for the Port Authority, 27.7% use a monthly pass, 22.7% use a stored cash value, 8.6% use a weekly pass, 2.6% use tickets, 2.2% use an annual pass, 1.8% use or have a disability or half-fare pass, and 0.8% use a 10-trip pass. So those who do not purchase a pass or card, in total is 28.9% and is divided into that 13.9% pay in cash, 13.4% have student IDs, and 1.6% have senior citizen passes. So the changes coming in the year 2021, so last year, as reports have not been put out yet about the changes coming in 2022, at least that I could find published. So in the changes that they had for 2021, in response to the pandemic, Port Authority implemented the biggest service change in a decade in November of 2020 for the fiscal year of 2021, with changes including increased service on the 51, 59, 12, 1, and 44 buses, and reduced service on commuter routes where ridership declined as much as 80%. So permanent changes implemented were the extension of the P68 to serve Forbes Hospital in Monroeville, a weekend extension of the 2 to North Hills Village Shopping Center, and extending every trip on the Red Line to South Hills Village. In total, 55 routes have new improved schedules. They also launched a new weekend service on the 20, 29, 36, and 93, and new Sunday services on the 22, 39, 60, and 74. So lastly, issues with the Port Authority system. So there is not enough funding allocated to public transportation for states and counties to improve their transit systems effectively. Other forms of public transit in the city that are not buses seem to not be used as frequently, which would call for an increase in spending to go towards buses to continue to improve routes, accessibility, and timeliness. Roads and bridges need updating, as some of them are in dire need of renovations. However, they are being addressed gradually and too slowly.
Public service and institutional evaluation of the organization's administrations and public service delivery. The public has been hurt recently due to the vaccine mandate among bus drivers, with many buses being backed up in transit. Some workers were recently fired, but they had been causing a massive delay in routes, and a lot of routes were slashed because buses were simply not showing up and they had to draw them back. There had been a free riding option available until March 28th, 2022, when they decided to go back to the paid fare, and they made their final decision just in the past 2 weeks. Our proposed administration of our service delivery modification would be to keep the permanent free transit and roll back the vaccine mandate so that the citizens can have their proper access. The rolling back of the vaccine mandate would allow for more bus drivers, which would in turn allow for there to be more buses and more available public access. This in turn would help to ease the stress on the consumer and having to worry about whether a bus will actually even show up or not. I know personally I've had to go through this myself. And free riding would also help to mitigate the cost of gas that is rising and rising, as there would be a free alternative for many of those who live in a city, so that they might be able to get rid of their car, or they might be able to just take the bus, something that is an alternative that is actually affordable instead of being costly on top of everything else that is already going up in cost. An implementation evaluation strategy for our chosen course of action for this would be to implement the Free Rider program. Now, this would take an increase in funding from the government, which can be done in one of two primary ways. The first way would be diverting funding from other departments. There are many departments in the city that could have funds diverted from them. We do not know exactly which ones you would divert from. That would be up to the city to decide, as politicians decide all the time how our money is spent. The second way would be to raise taxes. Now, raising taxes to funding the free rider program would be very unpopular because no one likes their taxes raised. These are the two ways, though, that we think would be the most effective and efficient ways to actually get the money for the free rider program. Now, this free rider program would have to obviously we just have a basic idea. There would have to be more implementation of it, and maybe they could do it without even an increase in funding. It would just all depend on how the city feels and how the city would treat their employees that are working for them and whatnot. This would be a very interesting thing to happen, and I believe, and we believe, that this should be something that is worthy to consider because free riding was proven to be very effective, and it actually got people back to riding the buses more. There had been talk about it online, and it had actually been kind of impressive that more people had ridden the bus because it was free, and this could lead to a massive uptick in traffic on the buses and a takedown of traffic in the streets. The core theories or terms that would be associated with this would be the low road approach, as defined, which would be a minimalist approach to ethics, which holds to the adherence to the law is sufficient. This would relate largely to the protests that had been going on about this and how largely the city had ignored them and it went with their plan to fire the people that would refuse to get the vaccine mandate or people who they would take an early retirement, basically being forced out. Now, this is ignoring the protest and not making any real change to it because of their own idea on it. So, this would be, in relating to that, they would be relating to the low road approach. Also, in the context of a theory or term with this, would be civil society. Also, with the protests were done by civil groups, which were people coming together for a common goal, which was to end the vaccine mandates. These people were just the average, everyday citizen who were either family members or the workers themselves who were against this. And this shows that the groups can come together and they can unify for a common goal to end the vaccine mandates, although they did fail. We thank you all for your time, and we thank you for your attention during the time we had here. I would just like to leave you with one question. Do you think the vaccine mandates are worth the loss of bus drivers and the slashing of routes? And do you think we should have free riding? That is all. Thank you very much.